whosoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whosoever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace and blessings be upon him, is his servant and messenger. In Surah Al-Ali Imran chapter 3 verse 102, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who have believed, fear Allah, be mindful of Allah as His due, and do not die except as Muslims in submission to Him. And in Surah Al-Ahzab chapter 33 verses 70 and 71, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. O you who have believed, fear Allah, be mindful of Allah, and always say a word directed to the truth, that He may make your conduct whole and sound and forgive you for your sins. He that obeys Allah and His Messenger has then attained the highest achievement. In Surah Al-Anfal, chapter 8, verse 29, Allah Almighty reminds us, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تتقوا الله يجعل لكم فرقانا ويكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويغفر لكم والله ذو الفضل العظيم. Believers, if you remain mindful of God, He will give you a criterion to tell the right from wrong, and wipe out your bad deeds and forgive you. God's favor is great indeed. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, we are on yet another joyous day of Jummah, Yawm al-Jummah. And we are reminded of the importance of community on this day of congregational prayer and on this day of getting together. And as a community, we face a world that is often complex, right? And we face these complexities both at the individual level and at the communal level. There is a lot of discussion, especially among our youth, in regards to where the truth lies and what is true and what is false, what is right and what is wrong, right? That's a dilemma that all of us face. It seems as if from time to time that everything is relative. There are no clear rights, no clear wrongs. Now, at a time when this conflation happens, these difficult questions, difficult times face us, right? Anything from issues that concern bioethics, to issues around justice, to issues around social issues. We want to remind one another that despite all this complexity, Alhamdulillah, our religion provides guidelines for us so that we are going to be able to distinguish between what is right and between what is wrong, so that we are going to be able to enjoin what is good and discourage from what is bad. And yet, this requires for us to develop good criterion, to develop good guidelines to be able to make those judgments. Now, the verse that we have read from Surah Al-Anfal, right, is talking exactly about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you remain mindful of God, as a condition, if you have taqwa, إِن تَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ فُرْقَانًا. We are going to give you a criterion, the idea of Furqan, which is a name for the Holy Quran itself, right? Which is a chapter in itself in the Holy Quran. This idea of having that Furqan, that ability to distinguish, to discern between what is right and what is wrong, is then conditioned upon having taqwa of Allah, having mindfulness of Allah, being mindful of Allah's majesty, both in His mercy but also in His jalal, right? So we remind one another that we are in need of that criterion. And yet, just merely saying that we need good criteria, good lampposts to be able to distinguish is not enough in and of itself. It requires two things to nurture, to be there, to be present. One of this is, of course, scholarship, good grasp of Allah's religion, and good grasp of all those issues that present these complexities. Right? If we are going to look, for example, into the medical field, in order to be able to derive lessons for ourselves for issues, from anything like, cells to, different, methods of getting pregnant and all of these, we need not only good knowledge of the religion, but also good knowledge of these sciences. People with ability to make sense of both and to merge and to talk across different disciplines. The second thing, and we are inshallah going to talk about both of these, is that we need companionship and community. The idea of sohbah with one another. As a community, we need to be able to rise up to this challenge and merge the fact of being a community and merging that with scholarship, both in Islamic sciences and in other sciences, and then combine these in finding answers to difficult questions that our time poses for us. Because the idea of Furqan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about here in Surah Al-Anfal, right? He says it doesn't stop over that. If you have mindfulness of God, if you remain mindful of God, He will give you a criterion to tell the truth from right and wrong. The next step is, and He will wipe out your bad deeds. And and the verse ends, Wallahu zul fadlil azim. Indeed, God's favor is great. So we need to be mindful of this, and that as a community, if you look at many social issues that face us today, it is because we have often failed to act as a community. Whether it's the issue of hunger, whether it's the issue of homelessness, whether it's the issue that we have problems across our own communities, over ethnic lines, racial lines, this and that, means that we need to be among those who love one another for the sake of Allah. And that often it is the search, those who seek truth and beauty in Islam are seeking not only the answers that our beautiful deen gives theologically, but also they are looking for community. Many researchers who work especially with people who are what we would call seekers would tell that it is as important as theological answers to have community for these. At this point, let's remind one another of a hadith that is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said that there are those servants of Allah, those people are neither messengers nor are they martyrs, and yet on the day of judgment their station with Allah will be such that even the messengers and the martyrs will look at them with envy. Powerful. And then the ashab, the companions, they said, O Prophet of Allah, who are these people? What have they done to deserve that high station? Please let us know so that we harbor love for them and then we show closeness to them. And the Prophet ﷺ said in response, describing these people, saying that they are such friends that although they don't have any ties of kinship or any trade commercial relationship with one another, They love one another just for the sake of Allah. They ask one another about themselves. They meet their needs without expecting anything in return. And they engage in sohbah for Allah's sake. And when they get ill, they go and they help the ones who are ill. And the Prophet continued to say, indeed, these are the ones, and they have faces lit up with nur, and that they are, in stations of nur. And continuously the Prophet ﷺ said, these people, when everyone on the day of judgment is full of fear, they are free of fear. When people are sad because of what they might see and expect, they are not engaging in sadness. Now, this is high criterion. This is a high station to be in. Now, alhamdulillah, I am sure we are all here very good friends to one another. Or at least, we think that we are, right? And yet, it is likely that we may have fallen behind on many levels so that, we might be worthy of what the Prophet ﷺ is describing. So, in a way, this is a reminder for all of us, the importance of community, the importance of sohbah among one another, the importance of our closeness, that hope, that love between one another, just for the sake of us being Muslims and close to one another. Because it's again that combination of knowledge and community that is going to help us lift one another collectively, and that we are inshallah going to be able to meet those challenges that our modern, fast changing and often complex lives present. Inshallah, in the second part we are going to look at that part based on knowledge, based on how Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anh has described knowledge, and in Kulli Qabri has a Mustaghfirullah hadith. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Dear brothers and sisters, we have started talking about our need for good criterion to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is false. For the Prophet ﷺ has given us the present of the truth, right? Say, the truth has come and the false will be not away. And we need to remind one another of the importance of this criterion in our lives. And in the chapter, in the verse that we have read from Surah Al-Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you remain mindful of God, if you have taqwa of Allah, then Allah will give you a criterion where you can distinguish between the right and the wrong. إِن تَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ فُرْقَانًا. That idea of furqan, that idea of having that faculty in our minds and in our hearts to distinguish between the right and the wrong. And then we said that often that idea of getting to the truth requires knowledge and building community, that the two should go hand in hand. And we have looked at the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ emphasizes the importance of being friends for one another, being good companions to one another. When we come to the knowledge side, so that we are able to rise up to the challenge of these modern times, we need to remind one another of an important symbolic descriptor that Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anh has said. Imam Shafi'i, the great jurist, the great scholar of Islam, he said that ilm has three qualities, and he likened these to the first letters of the word ilm. to see, ayn, right? Comes, from, being able to see things. And with knowledge, getting the taste, the ladha from this knowledge and what you see with that knowledge. And then finally, to act on this knowledge. Right? Because in our religion, in our deen, we'll always have that ability, that connection between the theoretical realm and the practical realm. We are always required and asked to implement what we know and what we learn in our lives. Otherwise, it's going to be theoretical knowledge that might be of help or not. Because, as in anything, in this realm of knowledge, in deen and other sciences as well, the more you are not going to feed it, the more you're not going to nurture it, it's going to get rusty. It's going to get all the more difficult to build on it. Imagine you are learning a new language, right? The more you practice it, the more you use it in your life, the more you engage with it, it's going to stay alive and it's going to be meaningful to you. But if it stays somewhere, if our books on religion and on other issues stay in the shelves and we don't engage with them with an eye towards implementing them in our lives, then that's going to be a disconnect that will create problems. Because at the same time, we need to remind one another that nothing really advances or progresses in linear ways. We like to think so, but we need to be able to build and nurture this knowledge as well. And our hidayah, our salvation, is similarly requires knowledge, requires work on it. In Surah Al-Muhammad, chapter 47, verse 17, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. God has increased the guidance of those who follow the right path and given them their awareness of Him. Right? To increase even on it, we need to be on the straight path and to work on it, to build gradually. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. Those who find the right path, right? God increases their hidayah and He provides for them that protection. So we increase our closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We increase our knowledge such that our taqwa increases. And again, we go full circle back and realize that because our taqwa will increase, inshallah ta'ala, Allah will give us that criteria. All these connections, dear brothers and sisters, are important in our lives, because without these, we'll be in need of somewhere else to look at. The challenges of our modern lives require that we build knowledge and we build community. And for that, we are in need of institutions like this one and others that can nurture both, inshallah, that can feed us not only on our religion, but also on other issues. And collectively as a community finds solutions to our issues and problems. There are many places where people, just for the lack of community, move miles away in search of a good community. Right? It's not only people, move for school districts and work and whatever. But if you look especially at modern American Muslims, many people, when they make these decisions, they are also looking at, is there a good mosque community for myself and my children and people around me? And having that is an important milepost for our own modern, current Muslim American society. And alhamdulillah, there are good progress that are being made on multiple fronts on that. Institutions like this one are establishing themselves. They are setting grounds, right? Alhamdulillah, we are seeing this as a young community in multiple walks of life. Last time, we were talking about elections and voting in the elections. Alhamdulillah, we have 55 Muslim Americans elected to office. Some of them to school boards, some of them to city council posts. These are good progresses. We have now, alhamdulillah, one congressman and 2 congresswomen in DC. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Andre Carson. They are all going to be representing, inshallah, this community. They are going to be in need of these criteria while making judgments between the right and the wrong. We need to pray for them. We need to pray for our communities and inshallah build as a collective. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the fahm of His religion, the understanding of His religion and His book, and the criterion that we seek in our lives. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to remain on the straight path and on His religion. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps our hearts straight on His path, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us from anything that might be of calamity and of doubtfulness. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to be agents of justice for our communities and other communities, and that we are able to serve those around us in our communities. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. In the Holy Quran, chapter 16, verse 90, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. God commands justice, doing good and generosity towards relatives, and He forbids what is shameful, blameworthy, and oppressive. He teaches you so that you may take heed. The